Hi there, it's Lerald, and with the BFA pre-patch looming, here it is. The Protection Paladin BFA pre-patch guide. This won't cover everything about how to play Prot Pally in BFA, but it will cover the important stuff on how to adjust from Legion to the pre-patch. First things first, your artifact weapon is now dead. It still exists and you should still wear it, but it no longer has any traits or skills or anything cool going on. Relics still exist, but they're just item level boosts. So wear the highest item level relics you can get your hands on. The end. Legion legendaries will still work in the pre-patch too. Their legendary effects stop functioning at level 116, which means they'll be useful all the way through the pre-patch and up until you hit the midpoint of leveling through BFA. In the case of Protection Paladin, the artifact power focus legendary shoulders, Pillars of Inmost Light, now just reduce the cooldown of Ardent Defender by 25%. They're not very good anymore. Avenger Shield doesn't do as much damage as Judgment and single target anymore, so while Tyelka Farron Marcus's stature is still good in AoE, it shouldn't be quite so dominant in single target anymore. In either case, Cepha's Secret and Archimonde's Hatred Reborn are both really solid all-purpose legendaries. Prot Pallies don't have any new skills, but they have gotten redesigns to a lot of their existing toolkit, so let's dive into it. Shield of the Righteous is now a short-range AoE that doesn't require a target to cast. This is a good quality of life improvement. Its cooldown was increased by 2 seconds, and it now converts 150% of strength into armor. This makes strength on gear a much more valuable defensive stat. In BFA, item level upgrades will usually be upgrades, even if the secondary stats on them aren't great. This is a nice change from Legion. Consecration has been redesigned. It has a much longer duration and a shorter cooldown than before. You can only have one down at a time, but it's much easier to maintain and more forgiving when you have to move. Paladin Master has been redesigned as well. It decreases your damage taken while standing in Consecration. It still buffs your block chance as usual, but in general it functions very similarly to versatility. This means that Pallies will, to some degree, try to balance their versatility and mastery in BFA. Avenging Wrath has been redesigned as well. It's on the global cooldown now naturally, but it also only increases your damage and healing by 20%, down from 35% each in Legion. It also adds 20% crit chance now, which will make it a stronger buff when you're under-geared. This all kinda seems like a lateral move for the most part. Avenger Shield now increases the effects of your next Shield of the Righteous by 20%. This bonus was moved from standing in Consecration to casting Avenger's Shield. Under normal circumstances, this just means you'll have the buff up for most casts. But it is a nice little change that makes moving a little bit less punishing. If you overwrite a buffed cast with an unbuffed cast, the game will average out the strength of your new Shield of the Righteous based on the existing buff shield duration. Basically, it's better to always cast buff shields, but if you can't, or if you overwrite a buff shield with an unbuffed shield, you won't just get your buff shield completely removed and totally be punished for that. Finally, Light of the Protector is now on the global cooldown. This is obviously a bummer, and it does mean you'll have to suspend your ability priority to cast it in case of emergencies. I hate that. I think lowering your damage reduction in order to restore your health is contradictory. That being said, it has received a pretty nice redesign in terms of its scaling. Unlike in Legion where it restored a percentage of missing health, it now heals for 280% of attack power, increased by up to 200% based on your missing health. That's a design that fits better with the rest of WoW, and it means that the button is basically guaranteed to always be a worthwhile heal. The base cooldown has been increased by 2 seconds to compensate, but to me that just means it can't interrupt your rotation quite as often. Block has been redesigned as well. If you open up your character page and mouse over your block chance, you'll notice that you now have a block percentage. Instead of a flat 30% like in Legion and before, shields now have a stat called block. And the percentage of damage you reduce by blocking now scales with the block value on your shield. Block works just like armor, meaning it reduces damage by a percentage. Blah blah blah, just like in Legion and before, once the damage is reduced by blocking, it's also reduced the second time by your armor, and versatility, and any cooldowns you may have up, and so on. Basically, this all just boils down to, block got buffed, always wear the highest item level shield you can, hooray. It is good though. Alright, here's the talent setup you should run during the pre-patch. In the first tier with the buffs to block, Holy Shield has gained a lot of strength, and Blessed Hammer has lost a lot. Also, the way Redoubt increases your block value is fairly complicated. Unlike critical block for warriors where the percentage of damage you reduce by hit by blocking just gets doubled, so for example, if you have 30% block value exactly, A critical block would be 60%. In the case of Redoubt, the value itself gets increased by 75%. So because block works like armor, there are diminishing returns. Instead of a 75% increase to your block's damage reduction, it's more like a 35% increase. It's still good, but it's not nearly as good as Holy Shield. Ironically, they would have a ton of synergy with each other. You could get that by wearing Soul of the High Lord, but it's probably not as good all around as just running Sepha's Secret or Archimonde's Hatred Reborn. In the second tier, without Teal'ca, Farron Marcus' Stature, Avenger Shield is a weaker single target damage skill than Judgment. It is also weaker for defenses pretty much all the time. Generally speaking, this means Crusader's Judgment is the better talent, unless you're also combining First Avenger with Teal'ca. In the fifth tier, Hand of the Protector isn't a great talent anymore simply because it's only 2 seconds off of the pre-haste cooldown of Light of the Protector. Up until Saturday it was 5 seconds off, and if it does get changed back to a significant reduction on the cooldown, it will be worth taking again. With about 20% haste on the beta, the difference in Hand of the Protector and Light of the Protector cooldowns is only around 1 second. That's not enough. The biggest choice for prop pally talents comes in the last tier. Seraphim's a big defensive sacrifice for damage output. It shouldn't be too hard to justify using during the pre-patch, but not so much once BFA comes out. Otherwise, Righteous Protector appears to be the better option for single target, and Last Defender is definitely better for anything AoE related. Here's the Protection Paladin ability priority. Should you wear Tier 21? Yes. Unlike most other tanks, the block redesign has made Pally Tier 21 even stronger. While you shouldn't sacrifice a ton of item level to wear it, these bonuses are really good now. Go get them. Alright, closing thoughts on Protection Paladin in the pre-patch. Pally still has the same ultra-versatile toolkit that has defined it over the years. One of the biggest complaints about Prop Pally and Legion has been how incredibly flimsy they are when Shield of the Righteous isn't active. The Mastery redesign should help counteract that and give them a small advantage against spell damage as well. Putting Hand of the Protector on the GCD is a bummer, but it is still a powerful emergency heal that can be used pretty much the same way it always has. Overall, I think Pally's still in a good place going forward, and I think that during BFA they're going to handle a lot like they have in Legion. Well, I think that about covers it. If you have any questions about how to handle Protection Paladin in the pre-patch, ask away. We have pre-patch videos for all of the tanks, and we'll be putting together more videos in preparation for BFA release soon. So stay tuned for more great BFA content, and as always, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.